Hello and welcome to Microsoft Ignite Ask the Experts. This session, we're going to talk about moving your data effectively and efficiently into an Azure Cloud native data pipeline. I'll get into the agenda here. We'll talk a little bit briefly about what to expect, to do some brief introductions with the team we've got on the session here with us today. And then we'll get right into a few frequently asked questions, and then we'll open it up for your questions. So please feel free to enter your questions into the chat as we go through, and then we'll do a quick closing wrap up. Just as I was mentioning, one of the ways to engage with us, the speakers on here, is through the chat section. You can post either anonymously or with your name. If someone has posted a question that you like, please feel free to upvote it by using the thumbs up. And then we and the expert panel will answer the questions verbally and or over through the chat. And I will be moderating the questions as we come through as well. So I'll see if I can kind of curate those questions as they start coming in. And then the experts will provide the resources here after the session, and you can get those through your Ignite information as you go forward. Just some etiquette as we go through. This session is being recorded, so please just don't worry about recording the session yourself. You'll have access to that after the conference. Help us and the moderators go through this. Don't hit too many spammed type chat questions into the chat session as we go through, because it will go pretty quickly and we want to keep our eyes on that and make sure we get a chance to take a look at everybody's questions. And then make sure you adhere to the Microsoft Code of Conduct. I'm sure most people are aware of this and have seen this already. But we just want to make sure that there's no inappropriate conversations in the chat. Again, no spamming of communications, and just typical respect and etiquette for your fellow Ignite attendees as you go through the session. I'm going to introduce the team here with us. I'm going to start off with Joe Schurman. Hi, Joe.
Hey, Rich, thanks. Joe Skirman here, and I'm a partner at PwC, and I work within our Cloud Engineering and Security Hub. And my focus is mainly around cloud native artificial intelligence, data pipeline, and engineering.
Thanks, Joe. Sachin, how about yourself?
Hello, everybody. My name is Sachin Bajpayee. I'm a director within the data and analytics practice within the Health Industries Advisory. And my specialty is around data integration, cloud analytics. So I'm here to ask any questions about data integration.
Thank you so much, Sachin. And Jacques, how about you?
Hey, thanks, Rich. I'm Jacques Samaha. I'm a senior associate in the data analytics practice at PwC. My experience also is in the data integration area with focus on data modeling, and that's where I'll be here to answer questions about.
Thank you so much. And then myself, Rich Ham-Kucharski, a senior manager in the firm, focusing in our cloud engineering and security services, and I'm a principal architect with a specialty in Azure Stack architectures and capabilities and features and functions. So we're going to jump into our summary and overview of what we're going to be talking about here today. And Joe, if you could lead us off and let us know what was the inspiration behind this solution and what was the challenges that you were trying to address?
Yeah, I'll take the thanks, Rich. I'll take this from more of an organizational, operational perspective as well versus just the technology stack. But honestly, what led us to building this was many interactions with customers that are in different phases of their migration to the cloud or their use of cloud native tools and applications. And they vary by size of company or specific number of years actually working with cloud technologies and kind of looking at where they were going to take their workloads from a workload disposition perspective and move those to the cloud. And again, they all vary, meaning from customers that we work with that do a lot of cloud native work today to customers that may be playing with certain cloud capabilities but are a little nervous about moving regulatory information or sensitive data, or truly trusting from a consumption perspective and managing the financial aspects of moving those workloads to the cloud fully. And so again, they're across the gamut. But one of the customers that we were working with for the past year and a half, 2 years, is a leading and large pharmaceutical company that does a lot of advanced analytics work around clinical trials and medicine development, et cetera. And they have a wealth of data. The organization had made a decision early on to move to Amazon Web Services, and this team was a part of the team that helped deploy that AWS environment, which was pretty massive in and of itself. A decision was made about 1.5 years ago to move to Azure for all regulatory information and data. So this team, holistically worked on migrating all these workloads using traditional cloud migration ETL tools. And through that experience and experience with other clients that we've been working with, and just based on our own knowledge and tinkering internally, we came together to develop a solution that really helped our customers move faster to a cloud native platform. What we did notice, though, too, is that it's not just about the technology, moving these workloads to the cloud or using cloud native AI services or data pipeline services. It's also about the team and their preparation and their ability to actually use the technology platform. If we just went in and deployed this type of solution, got it up and running and walked away, would they be able to actually interact with the platform and use it for really what it was meant to be used for, which is gathering a series of use case based scenarios or outcome driven scenarios, getting to the right data analysis quickly, and then proving value back to the line of business. That's the real goal. But likewise, making sure that their teams are organized in a way to where they can move from a traditional approach to managing this type of activity and using cloud native tools and looking at it from a data engineering and product engineering mindset, and then being able to integrate their line of business data scientists together so that they can work on these problems together. That was the real focus, not just in the tech platform and getting this up and going, but also providing some modern cloud operational guidance on the teaming aspect to make sure that we're not only deploying a state-of-the-art platform in Microsoft Azure, but we're actually helping the organizations that we're working with to ensure that their teams are up to speed, that understand agile data engineering capabilities, and can work together with their data scientists to achieve those outcomes. So that was really the kind of the summary level of the inspiration behind building this.
Excellent, thank you. And Sachin, we've got a design up in front of us here. For those that may not be totally familiar with this, can you give us an overview of what we're looking at here?
No, absolutely. So I think the slide is coming up. There's a little bit of delay, right? In one line, if I were to summarize the solution, it is Microsoft Azure wrapper on the vision picture that Joe just walked us through with, right? And I've been doing this for 15 years, right? And if I just give it a little bit of context, right? I remember my very first job out of college. The first job I got was to develop an Informatica mapping, right? For one of the medical clients, right? And since then, I've always found it to be like very constricted in defining what you're ingesting, where it is going, and then every time there is a mismatch, it will fail, right? And then there is an inordinate amount of time that gets wasted in terms of just keeping this alive. The moment one thing fails, the job's abandoned, and then there is somebody watching these monitors going in and making that one small fix and kicking it again, and then it will again start from scratch, right? So what we have tried to do is we have tried to develop this as a cloud native solution. So three advantages of this. One is it is purely entirely in the Microsoft stack. So it's easy to deploy. It can be containerized. It can be a serverless deployment. And everything is stitched together using the similar technology. So the seamless interaction between the technologies is also very helpful, right? So if I just walk you through, and then I'll describe you in terms of what the traditional way has been and what we have differentiated here, right? So of course, we will ingest the data using ADF and try to onboard the data into some sort of a file-based store, so that we are not distorting the data as it lands. So we keep a copy of the data as it was available from either of the sources, whether they are on-prem or cloud, and maintain a copy of that in our store, right? That serves two purposes. One is we are keeping the data provenance. We are not distorting the data, so that in future, if somebody questions a target value, which they are seeing in an application or a report or an analytical output, they can point it back here, right? So that's one. Second, from that, the second part is that's where we fork it out either to a traditional CAN reporting world or to a reporting dashboarding use case, so it can be used there, or we fork it out to more advanced use cases for modeling and training, right? If you go back a few years, advanced analytics use cases were always an afterthought, right? The primary focus was, let's get the data loaded. We will, model it for our end use case, and then we will create a report out of it. And then somebody else in the data science team will be thinking about their use cases, and they will, cry for, give me the raw data, no changes, and I will deploy my models on it, right? So with this approach, we have brought both of them together, right? Like, not only you are doing the traditional data load, but you're also prepping the same data for your advanced analytics use case. So that was the thought. And then the second flavor that we have applied here is we have packaged all of this into a Terraform script, right? So not only the stitching of the solution is seamless, but deployment is also very seamless, right? So to deploy the solution, it's very easy. You just need to create 5 resource groups in your Azure cloud structure, one for your key vault, so you can manage your credentials, one for your data factory, so you can package all the data movement components, have one resource group for your Cosmos DB and Synapse, and another one for machine learning, right? So that way it becomes very easy to port from one environment to another, one client to another, and becomes overall easy.
Excellent, thank you. And that's a great summary, and I love how we talk about how we've really combined a couple of different capabilities into this final solution. Given everything you just said, Sachin, what is one of or the most important factor that someone needs to consider when they're first starting the concept and the activity of developing an adaptive data ingestion project, similar to one that we have mapped out here?
Yeah, I don't want to sound like a lifelong consultant, but that's who I am, right? So, but I would say start with end in mind. That should be front, right, and center. Is unless those end use cases are defined, you cannot use this pipeline, right? So if I were to overlay this with an example, and I think Joe was hinting towards that, we are seeing a lot of activity from some of our customers who have not onboarded the cloud train yet, and they are in this rush to migrate their on-prem sources to cloud, right? And then not only they want to migrate to cloud, they also want to use this opportunity to go into this new world. We are also thinking about net new use cases and use this migration as an opportunity to start and influence their organization to start thinking about those advanced use cases, right? So I think that end in mind is very important. Like, what are you catering towards? If your focus is primarily migration, yes, look at the top component of this diagram, and then that will take your take your data from your on-prem sources, and then deploy it into, in this case, Synapse Analytics, which will, relational databases, and will see to your CAN report use cases. But if you are one of those template clients who are already mature in using Azure and looking to light up and enhance and accelerate your advanced analytics use case, you use the forked out component of the solution, wherein you use it from prepare to model, train, and deploy and publish, right? So I'm sorry, kind of consulting answer, but start with end in mind. Yeah.
Yeah, no problem. And then that's a great point, and it's so foundational, and a lot of people seem to lose sight of that as they take a look at taking on a large endeavor such as a data migration, data ingestion, and really what are they trying to accomplish with their data. So along those lines, Jacques, where have you seen projects struggle in these data ingestion type solutions, and what may be something that we want to highlight to help them avoid those struggles?
Thanks, Rich. This is going to sound kind of similar to Sachin, but honestly, especially as we work in consulting, like there's so much marketing and hype around cloud native technologies, all these awesome, cool slides and everything you can put together, that a lot of companies, what they'll do is the second they go cloud, they want to go all in and really start to boil the ocean with what they're attempting. And really, there's so many like wonderful and existing cloud technologies that can be used that what we found that becomes really just crucial that they start with an agile mindset going in. Excuse me, basically break the development. They need to break development into a series of sprints, starting with where they're most ready to begin the cloud ingestion adoption, and just kind of develop the velocity for improvement to slowly build out their capabilities over time. This one will help them expand into a cloud native framework, and also really help drive trust within the enterprise, especially like Sachin saying, if you're new to the cloud environment, you probably have a lot of on-premise solutions. You probably have a lot of employees or end users who have been using these solutions the longest time, that it becomes absolutely just vital that you develop trust in the solution and the method of adoption. So really, just an agile approach to development is one of the biggest things we've seen that companies need to avoid struggling in this area. Another one we've seen, and this also kind of touches on something that Sachin was saying, is because it's so often just referred to as the cloud, many will see it as one kind of homogeneous area, and there's just so many different cloud technologies. Like I think on this slide alone, there's probably like 5 or 6 different tools being presented. And it's really, if you give like if you ask like 10 companies for one solution, you get 40 different possible approaches. And just taking the extra time, the aligned phase of development to really plan out and document every step from development to testing to production, it's really going to help you have such a strong foundation going forward. So really, in summary, just making sure they plan as detailed and diligently as possible is the best approach we found to avoiding any potential struggles along the development lifecycle.
Okay, thank you, Jacques. We've got another detailed question now that we've started to get into some of these challenges that we're seeing people facing. And one of those that I'd like to raise, and maybe Sachin, this will be good for you based on the description you just gave. Someone's asking, how do you decide to use either the Azure Data Factory or potentially go to the Azure Data Lake storage solution directly, and potentially to Azure Data Lake to Synapse? Or is there a more elegant and scalable, simpler solution, or is it both?
So it depends, again, at the risk of sounding consultant, but it truly depends. If you have defined your use cases and there is no intermediate layer is required, right? So for example, if you don't want to persist your data in a file format, then sure, yeah, you use the ADF, connect it to your source, and push it directly. Push it directly in your Synapse Analytics. That's a relational database, and you can hook up your end applications, be it a dashboard or downstream application, and you can leverage it, right? But as we have seen, a 3-layered architecture, whereas where you can maintain the source, transform it, and then deploy it for end use cases, that gives you flexibility for something that you are not sure of today. Right, so something like if you have this data stored, that for example, for one of our clients, what we are doing is we onboard, like say in the source we have 100 tables. We download all the 100 tables in our raw layer. We process only what is required for the immediate use cases. We don't transform everything through all the layers, all these 100 tables, right? So for example, for this, the use cases at hand, we only have to make use of 20 tables, right? So we will only transport these 100 tables from our raw layer to processed and then processed to published. But if that is not the case, you are very sure about your vision, and then you don't think an intermediate layer is required, sure, go ahead and connect it directly to Synapse and save that extra time on processing.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Sachin. So, Joe, early on, you had talked about some of the inspiration for why we developed this solution and how it can help certain organizations. Do you have some guidance on how an organization, especially an IT organization or a data team, can justify taking on a project like this? Because in many cases, these are very large, complex projects, and they could take some serious time, a lot of resources to implement these. What are your thoughts around how to help people justify this to their senior leadership?
It's a good question. I've seen organizations that are very much so, or very focused on the technology stack and the technology platform provide these types of solutions, not the the AI algorithm or ML algorithm to be able to automatically detect data modeling, et cetera, to pull it in, but the actual data pipeline itself. And they focus on the technology platform, go and deploy it, and then it's unusable because they haven't taken the client team on that journey with them. And so it becomes a massive waste of time and failure because it never actually does anything to drive a use case or a specific outcome. To provide that justification, what we're doing is we're attacking it on two levels. One is, we've got the platform that we've developed over the past, couple of years based on our learning, based on what Sachin and Jaka just communicated, and you for that matter, Rich. But we're also supplying a product engineering methodology to this too, and outlining what are the needs from a use case driven, outcome driven perspective to justify the reason for even building something like this. And so we guide our clients through what we call our BXT, or business experience and technology agile delivery methodology, starting off with a kind of a discovery align phase, where we come in and we help our clients understand, let's not focus on the technology first. Let's really outline what are those priority use cases and initiatives that are near and dear. And there could be 20 or 30 of those, or could be 10, whatever. And let's go through that priority list and let's decide what specific use case, if we leverage a platform like this, or if we modernize a solution to support that use case, would provide the most impact and value based on that list. And so that's where the priority list comes from. Once we have that prioritized list, we engage in this align phase, a very critical set of roles, a solution owner that's really kind of like the best project manager you've ever worked with. That's also a scrum master that can really translate those those use cases into actual dev ready user stories, and set up the proper team and really methodically prepare the whole phase to be deployed. But it's on the back of those use cases and is tied directly to those outcomes. So we engage the stakeholders from our clients, the subject matter experts from our clients, from a line of business perspective, and it's almost like a two in the box type scenario, to where they're learning with us in terms of how to deliver, how to deploy the solution. And Sachin mentioned that we've created automated scripts to be able to deploy this entire environment up in seconds, but and we can host this solution for you as well. But again, the goal is to bring those teams along, build these agile-based data engineering pods, and start focusing on these individual use cases, from receiving the use case to getting to that path of value very quickly, and driving back to the stakeholders the understanding of why we started this project in the first place. And at the end of all that, what you'll see through our align phase and our our phases to go after that. I've lost of words here with respect to how we actually deploy the solution and actually get to our ultimate delivery goal in production, and then future iteration. We can actually clearly show the use case to the actual value-driven analysis that pays for the solution and the system and our engagement completely end to end. Hopefully that answers the question.
Absolutely. Thank you. And just like we've heard, this seems to be a common theme as we go through this, that it really does depend what are the priorities of the client, their situation, and their use cases, just like you were describing. And along those lines, Sachin, you had mentioned earlier that in one of your early examples of doing a data migration and really starting to think about moving things forward, you had to work with Informatica. Does this solution support multiple data sources? And can you give us some other examples of what those data sources might be?
So in terms of sources, yes, it can onboard both. If your applications are cloud-based, it can connect to those cloud-based databases. That it can connect to APIs. It can connect to directly the on-prem sources. It can also connect to streaming services, right? And then so that multitude of ingestion mechanisms are built in here, right? For your question specific to Informatica, no, Informatica doesn't play here because we have tried to make this cloud native. So ADF would be our choice of ETL here to move data around, to keep it all cloud native, right? But having said that, I do see here a question in terms of is ADF the only way to move data across? No, but then if you want to keep it cloud native, yes, use ADF. But then if you are going with a best of breed kind of a solution, you can use ETL of your choice. But the framework remains same.
Excellent, thank you. So as we take a look at everything that we've discovered and we've discussed today, we've learned that there's a lot of different data sources, there's a lot of different use cases, and there's definitely different ways to justify these type of data migration and manipulation activities. I'm looking to see if there's any other additional questions that are out there, but while we're getting to the closing of this, we definitely appreciate everybody's time, and we look forward to helping with the solutions as we go forward. If you want to learn more, like we mentioned at the beginning of the conversation, we're going to have some additional information around this particular solution and the many iterations of which it can be used and leveraged. I want to thank Joe, Sachin, Jacques for your time and your insights as we go through this. And then since I'm not seeing any other additional questions, we'll kind of wrap up there. And let me just get here. Again, we want to thank everybody. We appreciate all of your time. And if you do have any additional questions, you'll be able to contact us and our panel of experts offline as well throughout the Ignite conference. So again, thank you, everybody, and have a great day.
Bye.